Thank you. Deputy Adams. Sorry, would you please stay quiet? Thank you. And you too. Now, would you, Deputy Adams, I called him. Thank you. And you too, in particular. Thank you. Would you stay quiet? Deputy, if you can't restrain yourself, I suggest you leave the House. Now, I won't be polite to you the next time. I'll be ordering you out of the House if you're not careful. Deputy Adams, thank you.
Last week, Taoiseach, in your absence, I asked Minister Noonan if he was aware that the founder and 50% shareholder of a private consultancy firm, the Health Partnership, was appointed by Health Minister James Riley as the chairperson of the West North West Hospitals Group, a major state public health body. And I put to the Minister that we have a major player in private health that promotes privatisation of health services, being appointed as the chair of a major public health body. And I put it to the Minister this was clearly a conflict of justice, a conflict of interest, and once again calls Minister Riley's judgment into question. Now, Minister Noonan wasn't able to answer my question. He said he was not briefed on this issue. So I would like to put the question to you. And I think this is one of a litany of calamities that the Minister of Health has presided over. You may be aware that the Ombudsman, Peter Tyndall, highlighted the fact that he's had a lot of complaints about discretionary medical cards. But when he was trying to investigate this issue, he was told that the original files upon which decisions were made about an individual, about a citizen's entitlement to a discretionary medical card, he was told that these cards were not available. He said it was almost impossible for the Ombudsman to adjudicate on complaints made to him. So, Taoiseach, can you also clarify what happened to these files and why aren't they available? And the government also claimed to have conducted a review of discretionary medical cards. How could you have conducted a review of these medical cards if these files are not available?
Not sure of your last question, Deputy Adams.
Well, my last question is that the Ombudsman is saying that the files, the original files in which decisions were made about discretionary medical cards, are not available. He says he has no explanation for it. He's not been able to get an explanation for it. This flies in the face, in my opinion, of the government's claim that you're conducting a review of these medical cards issues. How could you conduct such a review if the files are not available? And my question, and I don't miss the question around the private health involvement, the private consultancy firm having the chair of a major state public health body. But my question is, would you clarify what happened to these files and why aren't they available?
Why they're not available? Obviously, we've had arguments and discussions here about the medical card system over the last couple of months. You're aware that for very many years, the system of allocation of medical cards under any form was an income-based situation, but that discretion would apply where undue hardship was affecting the circumstances of any individual person, and that's where discretion came in, being applied for depending on what those circumstances might be. Now, the Minister for Health has put in place a clinical panel to look at the question of how you might move to a point where, with conditions attached, how you could have medical circumstances applied here for service to be given to people. I don't know why the papers that the Ombudsman refers to are not available. That law never changed, Deputy Adams, all the way along in respect of having a basis for income for allocation of medical cards, and that where undue hardship applied, that a card would be granted in circumstances where the applicant would have been over the income limit. I'll have that checked for you. I can't answer your question. I don't know why those papers shouldn't be available. There's been no change there since the 1970s, which is why you're now moving to an examination of this by a clinical panel of experienced personnel. In regard to the other matter that you mentioned, this is a serious issue, and that matter is being dealt with seriously by the Minister for Health. Obviously, he wants to deal with it quickly.
This is a serious issue, and this issue is being dealt with seriously by the Minister.
Yes.
He's the guy who made the appointment. He's the person who appointed the head of a private consultancy firm which advocates the privatisation of health services to the chair of a public health body. So I don't think that answer is adequate, and I don't think the answer on the missing files is adequate either, Taoiseach. Here's what the Ombudsman has had to say. What happened to these files is something we have not been able to establish. All we know is that they are no longer available. As an office, we cannot cast any light on where the files are and what happened to them. They are simply no longer available. We don't know when they went missing. We do not know why and how. Now, I noted the change in the government's attitude in the days before the election. There was contrition. Labour and Fine Gael ministers talked about how they were getting in the neck, how we weren't dealing, how the government wasn't dealing with this issue of medical cards properly. Well, that was, I think, on the 23rd of May. That's quite a long time away. And you're not even aware as Taoiseach that the very files in which some of these decisions are supposed to be recorded have gone missing. I don't think it's good enough, Taoiseach. You must know, every single Oireachtas Dáil, every Oireachtas member knows her families, her citizens, I've recited, as have others, cases of children with unchangeable conditions, children with terminal illnesses, have had their medical cards taken away from them. So what happened to the contrition on the 21st and the 22nd of May? And what we now have is a government just going from one calamity to another. And I note on both these questions about the Health Minister that you as Taoiseach weren't able to give me in this chamber an adequate answer to either of those two questions, either about the appointment of a private health consultancy firm to the chair of a public health body, or indeed the issue of these medical cards.
Well, you don't have a monopoly on contrition or compassion or indeed humanity, and that remark is beneath you, Deputy Adams, or maybe it's not. How am I supposed to know that the Ombudsman wrote to you? How am I supposed? Well, okay. Well, I don't know every issue that the Ombudsman's raised, nor do I have information about lack of material that he's to get. But I'd be happy to follow this through, because these files on any individual cards should not be lost, and I'm sure are not lost. And I don't understand why they're not available to the Ombudsman, who has an independent role and authority here. So it's not a case of files, I hope, having disappeared, and that they can't be retrieved or made available to an independent authority such as the Ombudsman, as you would expect when an Ombudsman has to make a decision on a legitimate case. So we'll find that out, Deputy Adams. You're telling me that I'm supposed to know all of these details. I'm telling you candidly and in truth, I don't know that, but I'll find out the answer for your question. I've said to you that the matter of the appointment that you refer to is a serious matter and is being treated seriously by the Minister for Health, and he'll make his view known very shortly.
Thank you.